Welcome to A Dark Path, a podcast exploring the depths of witchcraft, magic, the occult, and all things mysterious. Join us on this journey into the unknown, down a dark path overgrown. Find spells and rituals, folklore and legends. Come, set your candles alight to clear your mind and unwind. Delve into the shadows to uncover a dark path.
Welcome back to A Dark Path, a podcast exploring the depths of witchcraft, magic, the occult, and all things mysterious. I'm Allyson Hemma-Romane, owner of Jupiter's Omens, and I like to put rosemary in everything.
And I am Kristen Jackson, and candle spells are the easiest way, I think, in my practice, to spell with very limited ingredients.
Kristen and I are joined again today by the wonderful and magnificent Heidi Stock of Witchcraft.
Hi again, I'm Heidi, and my advice for cheap on a budget crafty stuff would be if you don't have a jar, eat your pickles.
It is always a pleasure to have you, and today we have a fun episode in store. We are spelling on a budget. In this episode, we will be sharing our tips and tricks for creating spells with little to no cost.
Let's first outline how to make a spell on your own in the general sense. So I'm not telling you what to do. I want to be very clear. But in the general sense, you're going to want to identify what your intention is with your spell or your desired outcome and ways that other people have successfully achieved what you're wishing to manifest. You can stop there and complete spells that other people have made and found useful. So those would be found in spell books, grimoires, things like that. Or you can use research and your own intuition in order to craft a spell specifically for you. Places to learn about building spells that are budget friendly would be library books. You can get a library card and check books out at no cost. Podcasts also are a free resource. Some witchy podcasts may have spell suggestions or ritual outlines, things like that. Community, you might also know people locally that you can reach out to. Also, Reddit is a great place to go. People like to talk about their spell work there. Additionally, there are places that you can connect and ask questions, such as our website and our social media pages. There's also Facebook groups. Typically, they're done by region or by belief. And then there's also free and open covens. Closed covens, you're not going to be able to ask a lot of questions for because they are closed. There's like an application process and stuff. But free and open covens are probably going to be interested in spending time with you and helping you figure out how to better level up in your spells. I like to name the thing that I'm after and then categorize it into one of the following types. So I see spells as either an abundance spell, a banishment spell, a protection spell, a love spell, a divination spell, or a celebration of like a ritual or a sabbat or an achievement, something like that. If I'm having a hard time or struggling with my own self-confidence, I look to practitioners that are vocal about their spell work. So that's people on social media or people who make Pinterest graphs, right? Or graphics. I also look to my favorite witchy books most often. I'll kind of go there first and then I'll hit the internet. I also like to go to a few witchy websites / communities. I like to consider pre-spell energetic and psychic boosts, sometimes repeated days in advance. But sometimes I also throw all decorum and ceremony out the window and I just totally follow my intuition or messages from my guardian deity. Either I do a lot of pre-planning and like really think about this stuff, or I do absolutely none and just do it on the fly in the moment. So, fast and loose.
And I'm also kind of wondering, do you notice like a difference between really sitting down and preparing a spell versus doing it fast and loose?
The spells that are more intuitive don't have to be repeated ever. Whereas the spells that I'm doing that are somebody else's, I always have to repeat them. at least once.
I'd like to chime in here and say it's a great reason to keep a little spell log or an intuition journal, as I like to say, nonstop anytime I get the opportunity. That's it.
A grimoire, would you say? A book of mirrors, a book of shadows?
Yeah, or yeah. I just think going back and going, hey, that spell was really intuitive, had a lot of success, didn't repeat that bad boy. Sure, a lot easier to remember if you've got that physical little log in your hand.
My process is fairly similar. I like to identify what is the outcome, what am I wanting to do with this spell? Because why do it if you don't know where, you're going, then why do all the work to get there when you're not even sure you're actually going to get there? So I start with the outcome. What am I looking for? I've honestly never done a spell that is exactly like somebody else has written. I've always changed something or reworded something or taken out things, alternated different items and things like that because I feel like it's kind of like Alice said, it's that an intuition. Your body's going, yes, I need this thing. Why? I don't always know. But then once I start researching and looking into it, I'm like, oh, that's why. That makes sense. I will look in a book or online. Sometimes I'll ask friends. I really like Reddit. I feel like Reddits are really awesome. There's like all sorts of r/whatevers. R/witchcraft is typically a good one. It's very broad, but you get a lot of people like you and me that are like, hey, I did this thing, this is what happened, or I really like working with this deity because, and it just gives you everybody's kind of like little personal successes and failures that you can also kind of go off of too, because right, why reinvent the wheel? So once I get all of that, then I start researching like what are the ingredients. I'll go through and if I don't know what a plant does, if I don't know what a rock is or does, then I'll research all of that, switch it out if I think that something else is going to be better. But that's really an intuitive process. It's going to be different for everyone. Now, can you just take a spell and completely do it verbatim? Absolutely. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for me, I like to personalize it because then I know that I'm getting the outcome that I want based off of what I'm putting into it. Oftentimes, I will use just standard herbal books, like what is this plant? What is its medicinal properties? Because oftentimes the medicinal properties align with the metaphysical properties. You don't need a witch book for that. You can just search the actual plant and, pull up a book, pull up a website. And then once I look at the traditional uses, then I'll also continue and go into the metaphysical properties. Are there any spiritual correlations or correspondences, things that I can kind of add in or substitute? Sometimes I can't do a fire spell because the place that I'm in won't allow it. So then I go to whatever the next option is. I often use color that helps me to specify intentions, and that could be color of a piece of paper. That could be a color of the pencil that you use. And then I'll also always reach out. Like I always reach out to my friends. The older I get, the more I'm able to reach out to my friends because I've grown that group of people and just be like, okay, well, I was thinking of using this and this and this. And they'll be like, hey, do you have some agate? Because that's going to help you with this and that. And then I'll be like, oh, that feels great. So I can incorporate that in there. I will use the library, books, podcasts. Like I said earlier, I love Reddit. I feel like you can really kind of dwindle down to like real life people's experiences and their, successes and failures. And then I constantly will go back to my little black book or better known as my grimoire. And that also helps because sometimes you can reuse spells, sometimes you can use a spell in a similar but different way, change up some ingredients, intentions, and things like that. So having that, having my little black book definitely helps to adjust and sometimes renew.
My process is relatively similar to you guys. A couple key things are similar. Like I definitely have a when I have to get it done in the moment, sort of very quick process, and then a more when I realize I need to spend time and sit with a spell and create something more elaborate. I have kind of a different process. But for me, a lot of the work I do around spell work happens before a spell is ever cast. I like to do a thing that Actually, in the context where I first heard of it, it was called sitting with your feelings, right? But I like to do it before I do spell work. Because for me, understanding my motivation, understanding what my outcome is, has a lot to do with me being very aware of what is happening to me, experientially. So like with the little wheel for sitting with your emotions, which I'll share with you, and you could kind of convert in your head how that would work for spell work, but it's like notice the emotion, notice what's causing you to want to cast a spell. Uh, Name it, right? What is that emotion? Accepting it, exploring it, and then allowing and releasing. Now, for me, I think that a lot of times our spell work will come at any level of that wheel, but knowing where you're at in your healing process can be huge. Or in your journey, if it's not a healing process, lots of magic is healing, but not all. Um, but wherever you are in your journey is really important. And then understanding clearly what motivates you, because if you don't have clear intentions when you go to create your spell, your spells will not be as effective. I also argue a lot of times when you cast spells that don't work, it's because it's not actually in alignment with what you want. Um, Sometimes you haven't had the opportunity to really dive into what's causing you to want to take the action magically, right? And your sometimes your higher self will realize before you realize. And so when you go to put your everything into your spell, you can't really, because it's not truly in alignment with you. But anyway, sometimes taking the steps to sit down and go, why am I doing this? What is my intention behind this? Really powerful stuff. On top of that, I like to do something. This is my more lengthy process. If I have a way to build energy, I like to do something like yoga, going for a walk. But I like yoga particularly because it also incorporates a bit of meditation and a bit of breath work, particularly yoga that like vinyasa yoga, where you move a lot. Um, Through that process, you can do a lot of like energetic unlocking. And I think going into a spell, being very grounded in your energy and very centered in your energy is also very important. Um, when you are centered, again, the idea that your spell is going to have the best intentions for you, are the likelihood of that is higher, right? Because you're well centered in your energy and you're more likely to know what you actually want. Um, so once you do like the billion things you should do to decide if you even want to do a spell, um, which I was like, that's what I want to talk about when we all talk as a group. I want to talk about all the stuff you do that isn't a spell before you do a spell. Um, Sometimes I think timing is a big thing to consider also too. Sometimes you'll feel this urgency, right? Like, oh, I got to do this right now. And then sit down and look at the calendar and go, okay, but you know, if I can use the next week and a half to build resources and get myself better set up, I'll be in the right moon phase. And then two, your actions could be more energetically aligned with what's happening already. And that can give you a little more what I typically use when I want to build my own spell. It again really like kind of depends. When I do quick ones, I think Allyson had mentioned this at one point too, but like a lot of times lyrics. I'll jump to lyrics more quickly than a lot of things because they're already geared up in your head, right? So a lot of my like daily magic when I'm walking around trying to reinforce existing spells or trying to do what I like to call the line actions. A lot of that is speaking spells, literally, like the kind of one of the more rawest forms, right? Just speaking and writing. Um, and so you can take that inspiration from anywhere. You could take it from mundane television shows that are about magic if you wanted. You know, you can take it from things your friends have said to you, things that quotes that inspire you. I mean, shoot, turn that morning disassociation Instagram scroll into finding your mantra for the day. So you can you can find it anywhere, you know. I brought up Instagram kind of jokingly, but also specifically because I think some of us, what I jokingly like to refer to as the old crew, some of us old crew like to sit and look at Instagram, right? We like to see our TikTok reels 2 or 3 weeks after they were popular. And I was I don't feel any shame. I'm out there. We're out there. We're cool too. We're just old. There's some good information on Instagram. I know that I always try to put good information on Instagram. So if you're going to spend your time, you know, doinking around on Instagram, research, look at some of our witchy pages, find out how to build a spell.
We've been traveling together down a dark path. Now it's time to take a break and listen to some of our sponsors. A Dark Path will return after these messages.
Light the way on your dark path with Wise Wolf Craft's unique selection of tools for living with intention. From manifestation kits to altar items and divination tools, we have everything you need to connect with your inner wisdom. Wise Wolf Craft offers Reiki and other energy healing sessions, divination readings, and a variety of classes on topics like intuitive tarot and personalized spell work. Unleash the power within. Visit Wise Wolf Craft today online at wisewolfcraft.com and on Facebook and Instagram as @WiseWolfCraft. Wise Wolfcraft, tools for living with intention. Needing guidance on your dark path? Explore the mysterious world of Jupiter's Omens, offering handmade rituals, spells, and tools to focus your intention during spell work, vintage altar tools and decor, and intuitive tarot sessions utilizing claircognizance. Visit Jupiter's Omens, where the mystical and macabre meet, at jupitersomens.square.site. That's jupitersomens.square.site.
All right, so basic spell work needs. We've got the spell, we've done the research, we've got a limited budget. What should a practitioner have for basic spell work? I would argue that all you need is a candle and a fire starter. A pack of birthday candles work great. There are 6 packs, 12 packs. You can get all different colors, so that way you can have a variety. The color of the candle and the intention you set will focus the spell. And I would do a very simple overarching intention. If you want to enhance the spell, you can then, of course, go into additional things. So you can carve onto the candle itself. So you can carve out an intention. You can use a push pin or thumbtack or a sewing needle and just carve out what it is that you're looking for. A sigil or a rune, you can kind of add that to the candle. And then that will also help to focus or narrow down the spell.
In previous episodes, I have said that all you need is yourself, a pen, and a piece of paper. I still stand by that. However, if you want to get more fancy, candles. Candles are so wonderful, but we all know that I like setting stuff on fire. So candles. And then a way to ignite said candles, right? Also, sea salt would be a great thing to have. Talking about bare bones spell kits. Sea salt, you can color it, you can use it plain, you can just ooze intention into it and it'll do what you need it to do. It's good for all kinds of things. Lastly, cotton twine. So that would be like some sort of a kitchen twine you can get super cheap, or a cotton thread, right? But something you can use to do not magic or cord cutting spells or anything like that, even to bind up your spells after you're done using them. Toss them in the trash, toss them in a river, burn everything, right? That would be like my bare bones basic simple spell kit.
I totally agree with either of your guys' answers. Totally could be like, but I see that and raise it with something to represent each of your elements. I think sometimes just setting yourself up a tiny little altar can make it feel really next level. And again, I'm big on just free stuff. Get a handkerchief, something about, like, if you have, like, I use one of my grandma's handkerchiefs because that's something that I really like. Okay, so I use that as my to put my spell work on top of. I'll take a little bit of dirt or salt for my earth. I'll have literal water in a little cute container, and I have a cute container because I got one finally, but I've also used nasty containers like lids of jars and, like empty nutshells, whatever, like you got around. Okay. Then, for air is sometimes the hardest one to represent, I feel like, for people sometimes, but I like to use either like a tarot card that has association there just because I'm a witchy person. I got all those around. You can use feathers because sometimes you can find those in the yard. I also think that you could use, so now come at me. I like using a stick of incense here sometimes because of the smoke, right? That comes from the incense. As long as you're thinking of it in that mentality. And then again, you'll have your fire or your match or something like that. And then using those tools, you can do a lot of different spells with a little bit of water and some incense. And, so sometimes your little altar kit can also break into a spell kit. And then also just reinforcing that you have so many magical items in your house already. You already have a favorite cup. You already have maybe even like your favorite spoon, like you probably have a preferred knife to cut with. All of those things you can take into your practice until you buy something specifically for your practice because you've already energetically assigned them significance. So start looking around for your energetically significant items. Those are free. You can bring those into your craft and you already have them.
Now that we know what basic ingredients we should look out for, where do we go to get these ingredients? The Dollar Tree, great place to shop for spell ingredients. You can go to the kitchen section there and get salt. You can get herbs there. You can even get spell jars there. Nature responsibly. So think foraging, think gardening, think decomposing animals, think sticks, think rocks, things like that you find that speak to you, that have meaning and whatnot. In general, you want to ask the thing for permission energetically, that you can bring it with you, ask if it wants to work with you, stuff like that. Compost, recycle, trash, also great places to look for stuff. Spellwork doesn't always have to be pretty, but I think that it should be biodegradable. So try your best to find stuff that is that. Another good place to shop is your carpet, because you've got pet hair, pet whiskers, pet nail casings as they fall off, things like that. And those things are often really good in protective spells, or like trying to infuse the aspect of the animal into your work. Never remove things from your pet in order to use them in spell work, please. Your kitchen cupboard is also a great place to shop. So I've used things out of my kitchen cupboard that aren't traditionally used in spellcraft, like barley or beetroot or buckwheat, or things that aren't typically used in spell work that you probably have a lot of in your pantry that would do good things for you, would do great things to help you achieve higher alignment.
So something else I think you can do that you can for spell work, look through your makeup and stuff. You can use I mean, if you don't have makeup, look through your art supplies. But the same idea is you could do like runes on your body, that kind of thing. You can paint your fingernails in the colors for color magic, or use like clothing that you're wearing. So adding magical intention in using spellcrafting to mundane items is a totally feasible option as well. So say you maybe you don't have time to like get your jar and your rosemary and all that shit together, but you do have a lavender bedtime spray. Okay. Take your lavender bedtime spray, spray that with intention. I'm going to be relaxed today. And there's your spell. Right? You maybe didn't buy the lavender spray to cast spells with, but you certainly could. Certainly.
Indubitably. But
You
that's just
certainly
Here's my precious. So definitely, like, if you have an opportunity either indoors or outdoors to grow, I think that that's really important, because you can have an indoor herb garden. I had the wonderful opportunity of being able to move into a place that already had very well established plants. So I have 5 different types of roses, and just simply being able to go out and be like, hey, I want to do this love spell. This is a bright, gorgeous red rose, and I can cut it. But not only, because you want to have that give and take. So then you can, first off, just cutting back the rose is going to help it to grow better. You're going to have more blooms. It's going to focus energy onto the ones that are coming out. And then on top of that, you can water the plant. You can give it fertilizer and you can help it to grow, which then it's a reciprocal. You're helping that plant to grow and heal, but then the plant's also helping you. That's an easy way to kind of continuously always have those ingredients. And oftentimes it's a very low cost upfront, or if you have a friend that's like, hey, I propagated this. Do you want it? Free's nice. I also collect whiskers, like Allison said, as they fall off. Sometimes you'll find them around the house. And I have a little jar that I put them it's it's a glass joint jar, but it's perfectly sized for these cat whiskers, and it's tiny diameter. So I just have like my little cat whiskers in this little jar, and it's great. I love it. Reusing and recycling. So, like I said, if you find, I in high school used to buy, when they were made out of glass, the fire, water, I think it was Snapple. They had like fire, water, earth, air, and something else. I loved those drinks, so I would always get them, sneak them into the movie theater because you're not allowed to have them there, and then drink my drink. And then now I've got this great glass bottle that I can use for storing or using for my spells, or sometimes if it's the right material, you can burn in it. Like there's so much, it's just reuse, upcycle. The grocery store, I just went to Hagen today and they had spices on sale for $4. So I was like, yes, please. So I got a bunch of those. It doesn't have to be a grand, expensive production to get the result that you're looking for.
Wasn't this us talking about how putting on their glasses in the morning, they were saying they were using it as a discernment spell. They were putting on their glasses in the morning and saying that their glasses were going to give them the clarity to discern the truth from people because they were having a hard time with feeling like people were misrepresenting themselves. And so that was taking a mundane item that they have this ritual with already of waking up and putting them on first thing, right? But then kind of owning that and creating a spell around it. I think that's a really powerful way to start your spell work also is by turning a automatic, mundane process into a magical process.
That's so awesome because you could even use like your glasses like cleansing wipe or spray, and that's like wiping away any of the film that's covering your sight. Like that's so smart.
Old perspective. I'm clearing away. I need new perspective, right? I need to physically remove what's blocking my vision. There's a lot of things you can do around your glasses that are really powerful. Especially think about taking them off at the end of the day too. About like when you're removing your glasses, you're freeing yourself from that. So you get to kind of like with your glasses removal, right? You've entered your safe space. You no longer have to have that discernment. It kind of can, you guys can't see you, but I gave the head shake of can shake shit up for you.
It doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be ritualistic. It could just be as simple as the intention of putting your glasses on. Like,
Armoring yourself when you put on your coat, right? Your jacket can be your protection, every time you've got your coat on throughout the day, that shit's just gonna bounce off your coat, and my coat's red because I'm so fucking grounded.
So you're saying shop your routine.
Oh, girl, shop your routine. That is exactly what I was not saying. Well phrased. There's the t-shirt.
Shop your routine, shop your habits, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
really interesting.
I think it's kind of building on that concept of micro habits, right?
Yeah, definitely. And like habit building, things like that. So like if you're looking to build a practice, that's really good advice because you're taking automatic stuff that you already do and then infusing magic into it so that it gets your brain thinking that way. However, that in and of itself is also spell work, right? So
yeah,
Heidi, my mind is blown. Shop your routine. Wow.
Thank you.
That was so meta because I was like, oh, let's shop like actual places, right? But you're like, nah, dog, shop your life.
I don't fuck around when I talk low budget. That is, what's free? The shit I'm already doing. The clothes I already have. Fucking what else? I have got very little energy. I have a very little extra energy. So when I build, I have to be very conscious. And so like if you're somebody who you're like, I know I need magic in my life, I need more energy, I want to do things. Sometimes it's easier than instead of rewriting the book or reinventing the wheel to take toothbrushing and go, I'm going to wash all the negative shit I say out of my mouth. I'm going to put my toothpaste on my toothbrush, and this is going to represent all of the positive language I'm going to speak around the people I love today. It's all the patient words I have, like all the fucking whatever it is, excuse my language, that you struggle with. Clearly, you know what I struggle with.
This is your episodic reminder, Heidi, that this is an explicit show. It's okay.
Lots of people have tobacco lying around their house. Tobacco is actually a very spiritual plant, right? Like now, with most herbs that are part of our like Pacific Northwest tradition, you really should have those gifted to you to feel the most elevated experience from it. So that's a great particular thing to get from a friend. Like if you have a friend who has tobacco and you don't, if they would gift you tobacco, that would be a beautiful way to receive it, right? So some plants and herbs want to be given opposed to you claiming them. Does that make sense? So I'm going back to just Be good about gift giving. That's good. It can also give people stuff. It's good.
Yeah, that makes me think of like tarot decks, like the best tarot deck, not always, but through reading and through like experience myself is a gifted one, something that somebody else says, "Hey, this made me think of you." Yeah.
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings about tarot decks specifically. I think sometimes I agree. I think that they can be very powerfully energetically if you get a gift from someone who they connect with you and you connect with the deck. But also sometimes people use that as like a form of gatekeeping, right? Like you can't have a tarot deck unless it's given to you by somebody who has a tarot deck, right? Now, the mentality behind the nature of being gifted a sacred herb, um, there is a portion of gatekeeping there, but in a spiritual sense though, right? It's a protective thing. It's that these are an important thing and that we're not just going around taking and taking and taking, right? It's but I do feel like it's actually more about honoring the plant and honoring the true nature of the medicinal plants, particularly that we have in our area, which is that they are a gift. They're not anybody's to claim or to, and in particularly there's a lot of issues around selling those things, right? Getting gifted or making an arrangement with the earth and being gifted by the earth, some of the herbs you got out in your yard. Mwah, beautiful magic.
So I watched Practical Magic with my friend last week, and all I can think of is like making margaritas, making little magical margaritas.
If you were conscious about having a cup of tea, how much you could do with that. There's like the herb, the water, the process of letting it steep. All of these things have a lot of significance. If you're like a real woohoo person like me, you'll even read your tea leaves at the end, you know? So that's like, shoot, you could probably do 4 spells with 1 cup of tea. Could stir a little magic in. We could do a little grounding, right? What we put in there? Maybe that's a little magical. And then divination.
Bam.
Yeah.
That's so nuts because I just thought of this. Like every morning I make my coffee, I stir it a few times. It depends on the day and what I'm feeling, but always stir it a few times counterclockwise to,
Woo, girl.
banish anything. And then I like stir it a few times clockwise and I think of like today is going to be a happy day, today is going to be productive, today I'm, whatever.
Love that.
And I just now thought like that's something I do almost every day.
That's definitely
It's so simple,
spellcasting.
right? And it's so simple. It's just something that you could just easily like putting on your glasses. Thank you for blowing my mind that literally I was doing this and not thinking about it.
Little accidental witching over here.
Right.
Accidental witching in the kitchen. Oh, hey, garage sales. That's
Ooh.
something, you guys. We were talking about thrifting.
Yes.
Oh, a yard sale. Now, I would say yard sales can be hit and miss in a lot of ways, right? But one of the big ones is like if you go to a yard sale and you get real big, nasty vibes off the people whose house it is, maybe not what you use for your magical
Run away.
stuff and maybe give it like a real thorough cleansing, especially if you get stuff secondhand, right? You want to smoke cleanse it, wash it physically, whatever works for you, put it in the sunlight, put it in the moonlight, whatever. But yard sales can be killer. I mean, like you could even hit up free piles. I actually just found literally like some people like that are gonna be like, well, that's gross. But I just found this huge box of oyster shells with oyster shells that are like this big
Oh,
for free on the side of the road, which they're like, yeah, because somebody ate those oysters, they don't want the shells anymore. Well, guess what? I want the shells. So Eddie's a
all
happy
the
girl.
things I could do with those shells.
I know they're like this. I literally have like ones that are like this big. Like I'm
That's
gonna use them to
crazy.
burn shit in. I'm gonna do all sorts of wild shit. There's like mother of pearl to come off the insides. I can like break off in hunks. That was another suggestion. Check your free pile. Check your yard sales. I don't know if we talked about on this podcast, but we for some reason at length discussed period blood. So you could use your period blood. You could use your hair, your nails. You lose a tooth, hang on to that bad boy. That's some serious magic right there. So, people, I mean, think about all the extra goodies you get with birth. That's some magical shit right there.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been so good to hear alternative ways, different ways that you can spell inexpensively, sometimes even for free, which is super nice. For me, my takeaway from today's episode is that really everything can be exchanged and interchanged in a spell. You don't have to have a fancy ingredient, and there's always a way or something that you can substitute in order to focus, direct, or get to your intended outcome.
You don't need a bunch of fancy shit to do magic. And every step of the way in your journey, people are going to try and convince you that you need like these exotic herbs imported from the Middle East or Asia or whatever. And you just don't. You can use the stuff that you have locally. You can use the stuff you have on hand. You can use your trash. You can use, like we said, your pet stuff that's like stuck in your carpet, right? Like you can shop your house and you can shop the park nearby and find things to use in your practice. And I guarantee you your practice is going to be just as successful as somebody who imports herbs, because it comes down to intention.
Big takeaway, like if it could go into your compost, toss it in a spell, right? Like bunch of the stuff that we are trying to give back to the earth, which is also awesome through compost, is usually like spell ingredients. So I just feel like if you're thinking about putting it in trash, thinking about putting it in recycling, thinking about composting it, think about using it for a spell, and it'll save you some money. That was one last tip, I guess, really. Not really a takeaway. I'm kind of too tired for a takeaway, maybe.
You know what?
My
We'll take
takeaway
it.
was we have lots of tips.
We'll take that takeaway. Thank you so much to our listeners for coming along this crazy, wacky journey with us. Also, please check out Heidi on her socials at Weiss Wolfcraft. And Heidi, thank you so much for your knowledge and your inspiration and just everything about you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always so wonderful to talk to you guys both. You're both so interesting and well-informed and enlightened women. It's just a joy.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Dark Path Podcast. Thank you for listening, and join us next time on A Dark Path. Have a great night. What? That was so fucking stupid.
It is now that our time together must come to an end. Thank you for joining us on this journey, A Dark Path Come to a Bend. Find us here bi-monthly on your favorite place to stream, and follow us on social media for news in between. A dark path is there, winding and waiting ever. May you craft peace, knowledge, and alignment, so shall it be, or something better.